Ugh. I'm like itching to play Monopoly. Like someone hit 1,000 likes on a video, or let's hit the $1,000 goal and make 2,500 the marathon for Monopoly.
All right, I'll make that the first news we'll talk about
Okay.
tonight.
I somewhat regret my unboxing. I didn't flip over the money on the back. It's like the $500 bill on the back. It's 4 quadrants of the $500 bill with dotted lines. So you can cut it up into 4 little mini bills that are all worth $500 each in case you need more money.
I see.
So you can't run out.
I see. So we might start cutting during gameplay?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to us?
The instructions are so fun. They're like so satirical. If a instruction manual could maniacally laugh, this would be the one.
How do we start out usually? Hey, this is Phil. This is Trent.
Yes, I'm Trent.
Yes, he is. We're going to start our next episode of podcast. What episode are we on?
Number 6.
Number 6. Number 6. Okay. So let's get right into the news. We covered several news the past 2 weeks. One including the Monopoly, longest game ever.
Yeah.
And then there was the AR Catan, Wingspan, and there's the Frosthaven, the new announcement by Cephalofair Games, and our support drive. So let's start with the Monopoly. So Trent, you recently had the idea to buy Monopoly. Why did you do it?
Well, it's because it's a special Monopoly. So this is Monopoly longest game ever, which definitely feels like Hasbro is trolling the gamer community because it's essentially taking Monopoly, which is already a pretty long game, and making it as long as possible. So the actual board, you're moving 3 times the length you would before. You don't have 2 dice, you have 1 die, so already you move half the length, but that also means no doubles, so you can't go again after rolling.
Right.
And like you have to win, you can't leave the game when you're bankrupt. You win when one person owns all the utilities, all the railroads, all properties, which there's 66 because there's 3 of each now. And all sorts of other things. Even like the free parking has never actually been a rule where you put money in the middle, and if you land on free parking, that's not a rule in Monopoly. You're not supposed to get any money. You're not supposed to put anything in the middle.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah, so that they made it into a real rule. So you seed it with $500. If someone lands on it, that's your money. Or if anyone does like chance or pay taxes or whatever, you put it in the middle and you get the money now.
Okay.
Because it makes the game last longer.
Okay.
So they did all sorts of things to ensure the game lasts longer. And someone also pointed out that the game will most often end in a stalemate if you don't want to lose. Because if you go to jail, the 3 ways you could get out of jail before was get out of jail, pay 50, or roll doubles. So if you take away the roll doubles, the other 2 are optional things. If you don't have a get out of jail free card, you can't get out. And if you don't want to pay $50, you stay there. And if both people just stay in jail, the game is kind of a stalemate. So interesting game.
So you made a challenge where if we get, was it 1,000 likes?
Yes, on the announcement video that when they announced the game, I said, if this video gets to 1,000 likes, or on the unboxing video, if that one gets to 1,000 likes.
Okay.
So there's 2 chances.
Okay.
We will play it, you and me, Phil, until we're done. The unboxing is at 126 likes so far.
Okay.
So 10%.
I think that the other one I saw around 200. Is it around 200? I thought I saw around 200 likes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
I
more
think
than
so.
that. I thought that one was 126.
Let's see. Which one did I mention again? Was it the unboxing one or the...
The first one had more,
first
from what I
one?
remember.
Oh.
The announcement. So the unboxing has 28 likes.
Okay. So not much.
The announcement has 133 now, and 7 dislikes.
So I still have my chances to not play the game.
Yeah.
Well, let me just grab the box real quick.
Sure.
Let's see. Because I'm curious about some of the details.
It's very underwhelming when you open it. Or it was even more underwhelming. Now it's got some more stuff in this little side thing. But it was just a tiny bag. and then the rest was under here, 2 decks of cards.
So is there a estimated time on the box anywhere?
No.
No?
See, this is the back side where you can cut it into fourths.
So what do you think? If we don't reach 1,000 likes,
Yeah.
are you going to trash that idea and just not do the marathon?
Well, if, there's all sorts of, like, stretch goals I don't want to do it for nothing. So if we can get to, like, our goal of $1,000 worth of support, maybe I'll make a stretch goal, $2,500, then you and I will play.
Oh, I see.
Or something like that. Or maybe, like, if we get to 1,000 subscribers before February.
Okay.
Something like that actually seems pretty possible. So maybe before January ends.
So it sounds like you want to make use of this any way you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It doesn't have estimated time. I guess the developers didn't actually play it enough to know.
Well, since you mentioned the support drive,
Yeah.
how do you feel like, how it's going so far?
What I like about the support drive is it really shows who the people are that, we already know from the forums who've been supporting a while. But I did see a few new users that aren't contributing that did support in some way, which is encouraging because there's some lurkers out there who maybe don't want to chat and talk a lot, but enjoy the website. So I like seeing that. We've got like 16 people who've donated so far.
Yeah.
I would love to have had 1,000 right away or whatever, but I really appreciate the support we've gotten so far.
Yeah, me too. And I'm thinking of donating just for the sake of getting the new avatars and the ring color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I'm the one who made it.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to be running this for how long?
Until the end of December. So 1 month, and then we'll turn donations off.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I guess the only other news items that we have are, with the AR Catan and Wingspan games that came out.
Yeah.
As well as Frosthaven.
Yeah, Frosthaven, there's not much news. It is a Gloomhaven 2.0 with over 100 new scenarios and 16 new characters. So it's a whole new Gloomhaven storyline and area, like all new content. So this is different from the Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion retail $40 entry game. So if you're a fan and you've completed the campaign in Gloomhaven, this is going to be the one that you want to get next if you want the most bang for your buck, all the new stuff. So I'm going to be backing it. It's coming out in March 2020 on Kickstarter.
Okay. Do you know when they're going to come out with more details about this?
They're coming out with announcements at PAX Unplugged, which is this weekend. So I think Saturday is when Isaac's going to be on stage talking about it and answering questions with Tom Vassell. Okay. And so we'll cover it with a video by Monday at the latest.
Gotcha. How about the AR Catan and Wingspan? What did you think of it?
Those are interesting. I don't really know if I'd be interested in the Catan one. That one's developed by Niantic, who created Pokemon Go and the new Harry Potter Wizards Unite. So the technology and stuff is solid at this point. It was a little shaky when Pokemon Go first came out. But with Catan, it'll be solid, and there'll be some like trading of resources and some Catan-like gameplay. It just doesn't sound that interesting to me.
Yeah, I can't really picture how the gameplay will actually work out in reality.
Yeah. Wingspan makes a lot more sense. It's not developed by Niantic. It's developed by Crikey, yes, another developer using the Google Maps platform for augmented reality. But it feels very similar to Pokemon Go. You get to explore and look for birds in your neighborhood. You feed them the food tokens that you get in the Wingspan game. And you're essentially just going around as an ornithologist looking for and collecting birds.
Okay.
So that sounds kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that'll be a little bit more open to, just a wider audience with the families and kids, I think. Yeah,
and the nice, maybe not nice thing is if you download the app, they have the app that they did with Ellen DeGeneres' Wildlife Fund in there as well, which is like based on gorillas. You try and find like a lost gorilla child or whatever you call it, gorilla baby. And so it's trying to build awareness for gorillas.
I see. Do you have any idea if they're trying to use this app to try and get more people on board for Wingspan, the actual board game, or?
I mean, that's what Jamie's hoping from
Yeah.
Stonemeyer. But the creators of the app are more like interested in helping wildlife and nature and getting more awareness and fun and interaction.
Yeah, I see.
It's just a good IP for that.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely seems like the Wingspan one, the version, would be a lot more attractive, personally feel like, to me, than Catan. I have no idea what kind of a actual market it'll have.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because Catan could be fun, just don't know what the gameplay is going to be like, so I can't really imagine how to translate it over.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking Pandemic would be a good one, because you can go around, that could be a worldwide or like countrywide thing where everyone's trying to cure diseases in their own city and stuff. That'd be fun.
I think that's the first game that came to my mind too. Yeah, more than anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the news for the past 2 weeks. So let's move on to Thanksgiving. Yeah. So what were you up to during Thanksgiving? And did you get a chance to play any games?
Oh, yeah. I visited my cousins, and my cousins are not big gamers, but they like to play games and they want me to bring stuff. So I brought Welcome to, Growl, Parks, and one other game, Decrypto.
Okay.
And so we ended up playing Growl first, because it's kind of a social deduction game, but it's more of a surprise attack game, I think is better, because it's like the game Saboteur, if you've played that before, where there's hidden roles to begin with, but you need to start attacking immediately. You can't really hide for very long, otherwise you're not going to win, because there's wolves and humans, and if one human survives at the end of the game, then they win. So as werewolves, you start attacking. And so it's like a 5 to 10 minute gameplay. You pass around a deck really easy. So that was fun. And we played 3 or 4 times before we moved on to Welcome to, which we were playing with 9, 10 people for Growl. And then Welcome to, once I started explaining the game, we shrunk down very quickly to 6 people, then 5 people. And just because it's not teaching in 30 seconds, it takes like 5-10 minutes. But the people who stuck around love the game. I got to enjoy it as well. So we didn't end up playing Parks or Decrypto. I did play a lot of Texas Hold'em poker afterwards, which is a blast. I love it. Strategic, interesting, a lot of fun.
So who are you playing with for Welcome to?
Just 2 of my cousins, Joanne and my sister. So it's a solid group, really fun.
Did you see any kind of influence from or any kind of after effects of your marathon? Marathon that, well, I guess for those who don't know about it, you can mention it a bit and then.
So I played Welcome to the box. It's a roll and write game. It comes with 100 sheets to play with, and I committed to playing every single sheet in its entirety, which took about 25 hours, and I streamed that on YouTube. It's on there now. And so the only effect was basically I win every game I play now. So, because it's not as much, there's some variance and luck-based play there, but a lot of it is skill, and so I end up just winning a lot. Which is fine, I think, because most people, you don't really know where you're at until you count the points at the end, and then you find out. So you get to enjoy 20, 25 minutes, and then you finish. So you're writing numbers, you're trying to use certain skills to like get combos and things. And so it's a fun game to play and teach and have a large group. If I'm finding that I need to really understand and prepare the group I'm with. If some of them want to play a game with more strategy and a little more learning time, and some don't, I need to say to the group, this game is going to take more time. I think that's one thing I should have done. Oh well, it was fine. What about you? Did you play some games?
Yeah, so I played 2 rounds of Just One. I also gifted that to my brother-in-law and his wife. Also play. Let's see. I had my first play of Catan.
Oh yeah.
And lastly, I played Quacks with my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your favorite out of those?
Let's see. I'd say I'd order it in the. I'd say just one, and then Catan, and then Quacks.
Why is that?
Not because of my personal preferences, but because
the experience you had?
Yeah, the experience that that I got out of it. Mainly because just one, it's easy to explain. We just got started right off the bat.
Yeah.
I knew it'll be a little bit difficult because word games tends to have some extra challenges with people who don't have English as their first language. So I could clearly see that my brother-in-law and his wife were having trouble thinking of different words to describe their, these words that we have to guess. Yeah. So on our first round, we scored 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just 1 point only.
That's impressive in its own.
Yeah. So right after that, they immediately wanted to play another game.
Yeah.
So on the second game, I got a lot of the words correct based on just like single words.
Yeah.
And we scored 5 points.
Very good.
So big improvement. Yeah. So I gifted them the game, and they liked it, and they kept mentioning that they think it'll be a good game to play with some of their friends from church and so on.
Right.
So yeah, I think they'll enjoy it. So I felt very proud.
Okay.
Yeah, introducing it. And then Catan, it's a new to me game because the first time I played was back in high school, just once,
right,
with Isaac and a couple of his friends who were veteran Catan players. So that wasn't fun. I immediately just kind of, I don't know, I could see that I'm not going to win the game.
Yeah.
And I had someone else replace me. So, it tells how much fun I had the first time around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was this experience like?
It was fun. I mean, it was the first time we played more of a strategic game with the family.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And it was like a personal milestone for me as a board gamer, feeling like, okay, I finally got to play the game that everyone, I guess, used to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had fun, and then my wife, Anna, won. She ended up winning, so I felt very proud about that, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was Quacks. I borrowed it from you, and then I was really looking forward to playing it with Anna. It wasn't a hit with her, so that's unfortunate. But
it's funny. Joanne says like she doesn't like Quacks either, but it's probably the game she's played the most at this point. Because when we're with the group, she recognizes and enjoys it more. Maybe Anna will too.
That's my guess too. I think it's. I personally also found it a bit boring or too plain when we were just playing together. Yeah, me and Anna. Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit. It felt too much of a solitaire, and I feel like the fun of it comes from seeing others' reactions, more people's reactions of like hitting their chips that they want from out of their bag.
Or raging from an explosion.
Yeah, just seeing their reactions. I think that's the fun of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Whereas when it's just the two of us, we're just focused on our own thing, and we don't really get to see anyone else. So.
And you told me that you played over 3 sessions, right?
Yeah.
So like you started in the middle of the day and got interrupted, played more, got interrupted, and then finished.
I had to take pictures to take a record of our progress. So.
That would also dampen the fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have like a double date and then we'll play it then too.
That will probably work better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So successful Thanksgiving break.
I'd say so. I mean,
both
it was
got
my
some games.
First Thanksgiving with board games, really.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next one because it looks like my brother-in-law and his wife are starting to get bitten by the board game bug and really getting into it.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
I'm actually gonna need some recommendations for next year. Yeah. Let's talk about Viticulture now. That's one of the games that we played quite a bit, right?
Such a good game.
Of times together and with others. What are your impressions of it? Or maybe you could even start off by explaining what the game is about to those who haven't played it.
So Viticulture is a Stonemaier Games classic. It's like one of the top games. Scythe, I think, is the only one that's above it in people's minds. And Viticulture, it's an engine building game with some variance in it. But like the title suggests, you're planting grapes, you're harvesting them, you're bottling them into wine, and you're selling it. And you're doing that over the course of many seasons and years. And for each season, there's everything you need to do. In the summer, you're planting, you're having visitors come check things out, you're building buildings. In the winter is when you're actually harvesting them and selling the wine and stuff. And so it's this nice like cyclical thing where the very first year, basically no one gets points because you're planting vines, you're building buildings, you're setting up your vineyard. Mm-hmm. The second year, maybe you harvest some of them and they're in your crush pad as grapes. And some people who are really strategic or get the right cards can bottle them into or put them into bottles. But it's really year 3, year 4, year 5. And these are each rounds that go relatively quickly. It's a worker placement game. You're putting your little workers down. You're doing all these things. And once you start getting the engine going, you're continually harvesting, once you've planted enough, you're harvesting, bottling, and getting money. First one to 20 wins. And so the beauty of the game is it's pretty simple to like get the high level concept because worker placement games are really easy to explain. Put the dude in a spot, do what that spot says. And then it's the next person's turn. That makes it approachable. The theme and the art and the feeling of it also makes it approachable. It's light and fun. But then there's a strategic element that really draws the, because we played it like 3 times, I think, at our weekly game session. Every time we played, it got more and more tense, and there was more tension of wanting to win, which I really liked. And then we immediately bought Tuscany, and Joanne and I played it. I think we played it 3 nights the next week with the Tuscany expansion, which is better, by the way. The game is improved with the new board and with some new other elements. Overall, though, it's such a fun game, and it's so relaxing in some ways and so strategic and like heart-pounding if you can get the right things with the right amount of meeples. Sometimes you're like setting up and trying to get enough stuff so that you can pay off and just be really efficient at the end and just race ahead of everyone else.
You touched upon a few things I wanted to ask about.
Sure.
I guess one thing is, in terms of theme, what are some of the thematic elements that really just makes a player experience that winemaking feel?
Well, if you're of age, I definitely recommend playing with a bottle of wine. And everyone who enjoys drinking, because that was what I did the second and third night, it just makes it fun to feel like, it's like when I played Parks, I get Spotify out and do nature noises, like anything like that. It just makes games more fun. But the actual theme itself, what's nice is it's just lovely art to look at, and like the components really bring out the fun of it, because the grapes and the wine, you use these little clear bubble-like tokens that look like little grapes when you put them on top of the little circle with the right color and stuff. And so it feels like you're going through the seasons, doing the proper things, and moving throughout, building whatever you are to be a good viticulturalist. I don't know what they're called, but...
Yeah. I mean, even in terms of the luck factor of it, I think that's one of the biggest complaints that people have over viticulture, in terms of the luck of the cards that you draw. That it's really hard to get the green grapes, or hard to get the red grapes when you need them, or for the order fulfillment cards
to match
that you're
up.
always
That's one thing I actually do like about it. I think it's an advantage, because then you can bring in people who haven't played games as much and don't have that strategic thought or have that like ability to just break down a game and play optimally. They might get the better cards than you and take the game. I like that. And I can see why, like, if you're with a group of gamers who really you want to play Pipeline if you want something that's brutal and less based on the cards you get in your hand, where you're really working on just small margins and trying to optimize. Like, games with less variance are for you. Games like Viticulture do well because anyone can play it and have a chance at winning.
Yeah. And I think even in terms of the luck factor, I feel like that kind of goes with the theme too. Yeah. Because, you never know what you're going to harvest. Yeah. And I think that somewhat plays into the theme. it's somewhat appropriate.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know if it's intentional, but yeah. How about in terms of strategy? Because I liked getting your insight on strategy for, I think Quacks was the one that I asked last time. So in terms of viticulture, is there a certain strategy that you like to go for in the early rounds to start building up your engine? Or do you just like to try different things?
There's some things I think of that are important. It's good early on to plant things and get workers. Like the first 3 years, getting workers is very helpful. It's not always necessary, but your whole plan should be around the first contract, or if you get 2 purple cards, the first 2 contracts, because then you can know what to plant and get an idea in mind, like how many workers do I need to be able to plant, harvest, bottle, and then like give this out so you can start making recurring revenue and having the stuff already planted so you can keep harvesting. So early game is just building things up, getting more workers. You don't need to max out. You can have 1 or 2 less than max. But it depends on your contract. So getting a contract early is important. Planting and doing the things that are required. You don't need a... I don't know. I think those are the essentials that I think about.
There's also the choice that you have to make in terms of like your wake up time. Do you want to wake up earlier so that you can get some of the benefits from waking up early, or choose to wake up later and take your turn at a later time?
That's a good point. It's definitely important in the beginning to go early if possible, because then you make sure you get what you want, and your opponent is kind of on a back foot taking their second option. But as the game progresses, like, you can see where people are at. If there's no one that is able to harvest, you can play a little later so that you can get the bigger benefit and still harvest like you want to. So just looking at your surroundings is important for placing a rooster.
I think that's definitely something that's tough for beginners like me. It's so easy to just be so focused on my own board, and I missed out on what everyone else is doing. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
How about so you mentioned about Tuscany and how it's it's just a must.
Yeah.
Yes. What are some of the things that just make it a game changer?
Well, Tuscany comes with 3 separate expansions that you can use one at a time, or you can combine them or whatever, which is nice. The big thing that most people, and I agree with, is the board. You swap out the original board and play with the new board is one of the expansions. And it essentially just smooths out gameplay because it's so destructive to your plan. If you need to plant something and the 2 planting spots or the 1 planting spot available is taken, and you don't have your grande worker, or you need them later, which allows you to go somewhere even if someone's there. In Tuscany, there's a lot of secondary things that allow you to plant in a different way. That's mostly it. Is like there's 2 of every option, it feels like, or multiple ways to get to the same strategy, and some have extra benefits than others, and so it feels more balanced and less brutal if you go second or third, and I think it's just like the smoothing out of the game is what it does really well.
Yeah. I mean, I still haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, so...
Yeah. And it feels like every season has more impact because you're not just doing worker placement in the summer and winter, like in the original.
Okay.
You're doing worker placement in the fall, summer, spring, and winter.
Okay.
And so that's part of it as well. It's fun.
I see. Well, I wanted to ask you about one more thing. So people have mentioned about Viticulture and a couple other games. I think Tapestry recently kind of brought it up also. But in terms of I guess some of the... I don't know what a word to describe this, but Viticulture has the Viticulture Essential Edition.
Yeah.
And a couple of other Stonemaier games also have their Essential Editions as well. And so people have commented about, it seems to go to that cycle of, coming out with the base game of Viticulture, the original Viticulture.
Yeah.
And then there's the Viticulture Essential Edition,
right,
which fixed up a lot of the issues of the base game, or the first game.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting the Tuscany,
Right.
which again fixes up another set of common complaints by people. Seems like.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how do you feel about it? And also, in terms of people's expectations, I feel like is it at the right level to expect so much from Stonemaier Games to have all those things tested out and so that the essential edition is necessary? What do you think?
Well, the story behind the Essential Edition is, from what I understand, Hugh Rosenberg, another designer, had played through the original Viticulture and talked with Jamie about things that he would change and take from Tuscany to put in the original and things that he would put into Tuscany. And essentially after that is when they came out with the Essential Edition.
Okay.
And so I think that's great. And there's a reason why there's multiple editions of a lot of the major games. It's because people miss things in quality assurance testing because it's hard to test games at scale. Because games take a long time in setup and you're limited by actual physical components, unlike a video game where you could have beta testers and distribute that out. You can't do that with board games because it's a lot of physical things that need to be manufactured. Things like, I think you're also mentioning like Wingspan had some misprints of some cards, and so they had a second edition already after the very first printing. And in Tapestry, they had some balance issues, I guess, and so Stonemaier has released some balance updates. Those things can be caught with more money paid for quality assurance and developers to help smooth those things out.
Right.
But it's also caught, like even games like Root, I think most games have, if they're a big enough hit, will have a second edition, third edition, fourth edition, and make slight adjustments. Like Dominion, I have the second edition, which came out, I think like 7 or 8 years after with some updates. Those are just going to happen. Right. It's not software that you can just patch and make better.
Right.
You're going to have to reprint it. And you're not going to know if it's worth spending all this time and money on beforehand always, because you might have a flop. Mm-hmm. But who knows? I think it is worth sending it out when you feel like you have something special and seeing if the board gaming community thinks it's special too. And then with the ability to make a second edition, go for it.
Yeah, those are good insights. Yeah, I mean, that reminds me. I mean, you're going to be interviewing Jamie soon. Mm-hmm. So have you had a chance to think about some questions that you want to ask him? And
yeah, I think what I like about interviews that I listen to is hearing what people have to say, because they have interesting stories, and bringing up topics like this that are controversies that are interesting to hear his answers on. So hearing his opinion on that, on his design philosophy, on future projects, on all the IP deals, like is he getting into more licensing, and seeing that as a business opportunity. Like, I wonder if it's been profitable. This AR thing is interesting, but you can see it happening with more, if like, because maybe, you go with a bigger, more iconic IP. Like if he develops something with lots of characters, like Star Wars is a great one because you have iconic characters and you can license it out and make money from that. Maybe Stonemaier can go that way. I think Gloomhaven has the foundation to get there because it's this huge IP with lots of characters that are memorable and interesting. And so I think that's something that as the publishers get more mature, they can take advantage of and have different ways to market and make money.
So for those who want to catch that interview, where, when can they expect it coming out?
Probably within the next 2 weeks. I think I'm going to talk with him next week.
Okay.
So if you have questions for him, just leave a comment in the forum post with the video of this podcast or in the comments of the YouTube video. And I will consider asking it of Jamie if it's a good question.
Yeah. And if you have any comments about viticulture, any of your thoughts on the luck involved in Essential Edition or whatever, you can comment below. Let's move on to the next game then, Tiny Towns.
Oh, I love Tiny Towns. It's such a good one because it's 6 players. I've learned like a lot of 4-player games I like Quacks a lot. I would probably rather play that most of the time, but it's only 4 players.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm gonna have 6 people during the Christmas break with all my family and my brother and my sister-in-law coming over. So I was trying to think of a good game that we could play together. So
Tiny Towns, it's a great game. I would recommend though if it's something that you feel like they might be hesitant for something heavier than Catan or Just One. Like if you haven't played Codenames with them, that's a great one. Or even Dominion, I like that one a lot as well.
I'll probably start with Just One. It's always a safe bet. So.
Yeah, it goes up to 7 players. It's a great game.
Yeah, and Codenames, I know for sure that my mom and dad are gonna have trouble.
Yeah, that's a bit thinky if you don't have the right group.
Yeah, just a language factor for them. So.
Yeah, there's a Codename Pictures. I have a copy of that too if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely ask you about some of that. So yeah.
Because you could play that one in Korean if you just do the pictures. Maybe that would work better, actually.
I guess so. That's true. We'll see.
We'll see. You can definitely borrow it.
So, Tiny Towns.
Tiny Towns. This game is kind of like, the way I describe it, it looks like Tetris and the mobile game that was hot 2 years ago, 2048, where you're swiping left, swiping right, up or down, and like it's this 4x4 grid of things like sliding into each other if they're the same number. 2 becomes a 4, 4 and 4 becomes a 6, or becomes an 8. And so in Tiny Towns, it's got the same concept where you have little cubes, and I think there's 8 or 9 cards. Maybe there's 7. Who knows? I'm sure a lot of people know. Where each of these cards lays out a building plan. So the cottage takes a red cube, a yellow cube, and a blue cube in kind of like a little L shape. Blue's the corner, and you each have your own little grid, 4x4. And so to build the cottage, you have to design that little pattern, red, blue, yellow, in a little L shape. But how do you do that, Phil? Well, you have everyone sit at the table, and there's these pile of cubes, and someone with a master hammer, the little wooden meeple thing, fun to hold. They pick a color, red. Okay, everyone picks a red cube, puts it on your 4x4 grid somewhere, and you hand the master hammer to the next person. Blue. Okay, everyone picks up blue, puts it somewhere on the thing. The next person, yellow. And the people who are trying to make a cottage now have all the ingredients. And so they remember where they put those 3 cubes, pick them up, and then grab a cottage little token, or what do you call that, little wooden whatever component, and put it in one of those 3 spots that had the yellow, red, and blue. And so you've consolidated those 3 into one, and you get the cottage. And so the same principle applies to all 7 of these buildings. They each have their own Tetris-looking thing, like an L shape or like a C or a T or a line or whatever, of various colors. And they all do varying things, as you would expect. Cottages give you points for being with farms, because the farms feed the cottages, and they each get 3 points. The chapels, if you have chapels, they kind of have this Fibonacci thing. If you do 6 chapels, it's way better than 5 chapels, which is way better than 4. And this is so interesting because it's like this game where you're trying to manage space, and it's a really small amount of space. You're consolidating cubes, and it's nice because no matter how many players you have, 1 to 6, the game takes about the same amount of time because everyone's putting stuff down at the same time. It's relatively quick and easy to learn. And each of the buildings, they have cards associated. You swap the cards out. You have a whole new setup with whole new Tetris looks and victory conditions and things. So it's really fun to play and play a bunch. Very strategic. My wife typically beats me. And one of our friends has a theory that because she was a landscape architecture student, this is her game. But I like it for a group who wants to play something more than just one, more than a party game, but less than Wingspan, or Wingspan might be in the same area, but I feel like those take a little longer to teach, take a little longer to play. It's kind of this medium light.
It's deceptively complex, Tiny Towns.
Yeah, it's like the concept comes across very easily to people, but then when you're sitting there thinking, like you're trying to just map out your turns, and especially when you're running out of room, you're trying to panic and figure out what you can make. It's a fun way to just get through it at like 40 minutes, I think. It's typically how long games take.
Has it come out? I know that when you first got the game, you and Joanne played it quite a bit, but has it come out recently at all?
It came out when we had people visiting for our baby shower. So played it with friends who came into town.
Okay. Did they like it?
Yeah. We had a group of 6, so that was perfect. That's why we got it, because we were considering Quacks of Quedlinburg or Tiny Towns. Those are our 2 go-tos, and it's basically dependent on the player count.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too. I think my brain was starting to hurt by the second round that we played.
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to think too much, and I was just, I was thinking too much again about just my own board, paying attention to, making the, good patterns, and then suddenly, everyone else, I was the only one trying to go for a different strategy. And so when people started calling for again and again, like these colors that I did not need on my board, it just threw out my whole game. And then
yeah, it's funny how much, like, if you play the very similar strategies to someone else, you can do a lot better because they're saying the colors you need more often. Yeah. So it's helpful to at least, like, have a couple buildings you're building that cover all 5 colors possible. So you can do something.
Yeah. Okay, well, I might try to play that with my family. We'll see. Yeah.
I think going back to Quacks, I really want to get the expansion because it brings in more gameplay stuff, but it also brings in a 5th player board, which means I could play it with more groups. I think that would be worth it. Quacks is one of the few games where I want an expansion for.
Yeah, it was my first introduction into a bag building game too, and I like it because I tend to like a lot of push your luck elements where I get that adrenaline of big rewards, big consequences.
Yeah.
So
it makes for memorable moments and things to talk about later.
Yeah. So I think I really want to try and get Anna into it again with a bigger group.
Yeah.
So that it's not just me. So.
I think that would help.
Yeah.
Joanne and I are willing to be part of that bigger group.
Well, one of the games that we also played was The Estates.
Yeah, that was about a month ago that we played that.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah.
And it's an interesting game. I think there's a lot of good strategic elements to it and a lot of good balance. But the problem that I had with it was it didn't feel like for some, like the whole principle of the game is there's 3 rows. And the auctioning, because this game is like auction-based game where someone every turn is trying to buy something for more or less than other people and then place it on the board. And you're essentially, there's 6 colors of contracting companies. If you win an auction for a yellow piece, you're now the yellow contractor. If the person next to you tries to grab a blue piece and you actually end up winning that auction as well, you're now also the blue contractor. You own both companies. And so it can create an imbalance where, like with 4 players, there's only 6 contract colors. So the most even split would be 2 colors for one person, 2 colors for another, and then 1 and 1. And you get points for each color you have. Like if the blocks are placed well of your red and your yellow, you're going to get points for both of those. The way it's balanced, because if you have 2 versus 1, that sounds like you're going to win automatically. The way it's balanced is you also get negative points for each blue and yellow in an unfinished row. And so that's what's supposed to create the balance, is this feeling of, you're getting all the buildings, so you're going to have all the money and all the points. But if you have an unfinished row, you're losing all the money, all the points at the end of the game. And I could see that there, but it didn't really come across as that's how it felt. It felt like the person who was behind, who only had 1 contract, I had 3 contracts. And like other people, it was like 2 and 2 or something. I don't know if that math adds up, but it just felt like the one was falling way behind, and he realized very late that he can try and sabotage, but it didn't end up working.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting game. It's not one that we, as a group, were excited to play again and haven't since then. But I think if someone were to want to play it, I would be up for it. It's just, I like the auction element of it because there's like 6 different types of pieces, and it all goes to the same type of auction. Everyone gets one turn. There's like whoever's the active player picks the thing that they're auctioning for, and whoever has the highest bid either wins it or the active player pays for it at that price. So it's really simple and effective auctioning for quick turns. So I like that part of it. It's just missing that like last little spark to make it a great game.
I see.
So it's a very good game, I would say.
I mean, personally, I enjoyed it, and I like how mean it is.
Yeah.
And I like how there are so many different ways to mess with the other players.
Yeah.
I like that part. But the part that I don't like is that it depends so much on the group dynamic, like who you're playing with. Because if I have even just one person who doesn't like negative player interaction,
Yeah.
that usually makes me play less than optimal moves.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah, yeah.
I try not to make moves that might upset the person or something. Usually.
Yeah.
So I tend to avoid those kind of games. But I feel like if I had the right group dynamic, then it's a game that I might have a lot of fun with. Like if it's just a bunch of close friends that don't mind just messing with one another. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it could have the right spot because it's a fairly quick game from what I remember, under an hour.
Yeah.
Which, like, if I were to play a similar style of game, I would want to play Pipeline or something that takes longer, is bigger, and has that same cutthroat strategy. I guess it's less attacking based,
Right.
like with take that mechanics that the estates can have. So it does sit in a spot where it could come out for the right group. I agree with that.
I do feel like in our group that we regularly play with, we don't have too many games that come out that have those kind of elements, I feel like.
Well, as the curator, I specifically choose games that don't, just because we have people that don't like to feel like they're losing. And, there's a common term called king making. If you're falling behind and it's really clear that there's no way you can win, then you switch your rollout for, instead of playing to win, you're playing to figure out who you want to win.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a game of politics to still be a fun game for you. And, we just don't have the group that's wanting to do that kind of style of gameplay.
Yeah. And with the estates, it was definitely like that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was way behind since the beginning, so I was just trying to think, who should I reward to win
Right.
So that's true.
Yeah. I think it has its place.
So I guess my last question would be, what do you want to play next week?
I have so many games I want to play because we've missed like the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've got Tapestry, I've got Paladins of the West, I've got the expansion to Wingspan. I also have a lot of games like we haven't, as a group, gotten to play with the expansion to Viticulture.
I almost want to just show them off right now, but.
Well, I know, yeah. They're beautiful games. So there's so many that I want to play, but I don't know, I have to pick one. And I think I would either pick Wingspan, because I also want to play Scythe and El Dorado and a few others that I have at the house.
Yeah.
I think the winner for the group would either be Tuscany, the Wingspan expansion, probably, because those are the ones that I think I want to play a lot and would fit well with the group. I think Tapestry may or may not. I don't really know if some games would fit well with our group, but
yeah, Paladins might be a little bit tough, I think.
Yeah, the really heavier games I just haven't brought out because we need the right group. And a Tuesday night is not the best night for a potentially 3-hour game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Any reviews that we can expect next week from any of those games?
Yeah, we should. I'm going to review a few. I'm not sure which ones yet. Just because, I've been doing less reviews because I don't get that many views. And so if I want to do one, I have to pick games that either are sent to me so that I know that the publisher's wanting to share it in their own channels, or games that the publishers or the audience is wanting to hear and promote.
Right.
So that's why I've been doing more news stuff, because that's what people watch and are interested in more generally.
I am curious though, because I personally like your review videos.
Mhm.
I like the insight from them. I like the type of format that you go for, short and sweet.
I like doing them as well. I
Yeah.
think they're more fun, and I feel like I'm more knowledgeable after playing the games a few times and
Yeah.
stuff.
So I guess that's actually one more question that we can throw out for you guys. What are some of the, I guess, the video formats that you've been enjoying more of, like between news, interviews, and reviews? And, I think we want to hear your feedback so that we have an idea of what you want. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would help.
oh, let me tell you the user questions.
Sure.
And they're questions from Ben, so you know what to expect.
Is it Star Wars?
One of them.
Okay.
One of them. Yeah, he had 5.
Nice.
Have you guys pre-purchased your tickets for Rise of Skywalker, the movie that's coming out real soon?
If I did not have a child, I definitely would.
Yeah. And the second question was, list your top 5 Roman emperors with explanations.
Roman emperors?
Yes.
I don't know
Can you
anyone
even
besides
name 5?
Caesar.
I can't even name 5.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Oh my goodness. If you could be an animal, which one would you be?
If I could be an animal,
Yes.
you go
Yes.
first. What animal are you?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know that I'm assigned as a golden retriever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be the life, wouldn't it? I think I would be a bear. Big grizzly bear. I've been watching a lot of We Bear Bears. Yeah.
Oh, that.
Grizzly bear.
And how would you survive a zombie apocalypse?
That's a good question. I think getting really good with some sort of melee weapon. Axe. Sword. Also be on a mountain. Because then they have to climb up. Slippery mountain.
Well, are these zombies that are the ones that are more mobile, or
The fast ones or the
Yeah.
slow ones? Yeah, that definitely
Yeah.
depends. If it's the fast ones, I just give up.
because with all these movies that are coming out, they're evolving more and more, it seems like.
Yeah.
And the last question was BGA Con. When is it going to be?
BGA Con would be sweet. I
Yeah.
think I would love to have one within 2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Like next year, we do a lot of partnering with the San Luis Con, see what the experience is like from the backside, and then we launch our own. Yeah, well,
Something.
thank you for listening, everybody. It's been a joy to talk with you, Phil. So I appreciate having this swapped role. I feel like you're great at asking questions, and I like talking about stuff.
Well, I hope so. Yeah. So I guess that's it for today.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
See ya.